promised to buy my mum a house. I still haven't. I would observe her. What are the things that she really wants? Big windows to let in the light, minimalist architecture. So I had the perfect gift in my mind, and I would hustle. But of course, selling sweets wouldn't be enough. And it's at high school when I kind of started talking about my hustling that it all kind of came to light. Oh, you made £13 a week. Suddenly, my passion kind of got quantified. Suddenly I felt embarrassed. I felt inferior. It was at a time in my life where I also really hated school. I have an immigrant background, and school is a privilege and it's an opportunity. So how can you hate a privileged opportunity? In that I kind of felt a bit isolated, a bit alone. But this feeling, it resonated with me. It didn't start with violence or anger. It didn't start with retaliation. It started with understanding. Look, I feel that you're embarrassed. And this school thing, at best, it's an outdated system. At worst, it's a farm. And you're definitely not the farm. And I'm definitely not the farm. This feeling rose in my consciousness, and now I was starting to talk to it. Wait, if I'm not the farmer? But it wasn't just an emotional thing. Over time, I had a way to express or channel my anger. Like, you're right. This school system isn't justifiable. You're right. I do feel embarrassed and shame about this. Well, if only there was a solution. I'd already accepted the frame of the voice, and now the solution wrote itself, even though it felt like I was the one doing the writing. Because it wasn't just the emotional understanding that I felt at this time. I also got a mental clarity. I accepted I was a victim. And from that detachment, I had moments of clairvoyance, a clear mind to assess, a logical mind void of compassion, void of a part of humanity. It was in those moments I realized I could do something that others can't. I am able to sacrifice my humanity. Now, if you look at success stories, they always speak about sacrifice. Spiritually, Jesus Christ sacrificed himself. Athletes will sacrifice their freedom or even their own bodies. While in finance, it's possible to sacrifice your morality, and therein lies your profit. Now, this voice still lives with me today. Are you able to identify these forces within yourself? And if you are you able to balance them out or assess whether they're helping you or hindering you? I've been working on a framework for over 10 years that helps me increase my awareness, and it helps me assess what to do in these types of situations. And I can share it right with you. So let's start with a bit of visualization. So when this student of mine said, "Oh mate, £13, that's someone from the outside affecting my world." And what we often make the mistake of is we say that this person is my world. We conflate the two. But it's not actually the case. This person gets downloaded, gets mirrored, gets cloned, and gets put inside our own personal world. And it's me that interacts with this way more. I interact with this version way more than I interact with this version. Now, these voices and these forces, they often don't actually act on these external people, right? When I had this voice, he wasn't often telling me like, tell this person they're never going to make it in business. Tell this person you're going to be more successful than them. Push this person out of the way because they're That's not really what was going on. And I think a lot of the time, these forces, these internal forces, stay within. Now, you have moments where they lash out. Most of the time, these forces that are within stay on the inside. So if we label this force, this internal force, most of its interaction is going to be this version. Here's an interesting phenomenon. Because this is within my world, this doesn't really have any rules. It's made up of the same fabric as the force, as the voice. It's made up as this within the same substrate as logic and emotion. And so this voice can utilize logic, can utilize emotion, and can manipulate the way that people are perceived within you. If I'm angry, my ability to perceive a friend changes, even if I've not met the friend, right? Really, this should get updated every time that I meet them, or at least every time I get an insight on them. But this version of them can change independently of them. And one of the strongest forces comes from these forces from within. These forces that sometimes have a voice, they can utilize logic. For me, it was, look, there are businesses out there that whose sole profit relies on finding other businesses, gutting them, and extracting the resources, and they become very rich. That's a fact. Logic. Listen, brother, if these teachers cared about you, do you think they would listen to you or ignore you? I can fill in the answer. Or, brother, I know you love your mother. I know she means a lot to you. We need to get this perfect gift. Hopefully, this visualization of myself helps illustrate that it's possible to start to see, perceive, and ultimately make clearer decisions about these forces that act within you. And if you don't make conscious decisions, these forces will act for you. If I am not aware of this guy, I'll become aware of this logic. I'll become aware of this question. I'll become aware of this emotion. And I'll make the mistake to think that all these things are my own. What this illustrates is that you have an internal world and an external world. Often people conflate the two. And within this internal world, almost anything can happen. And one of the strongest forces in this internal world are unknown to you. And let's say you know about it. Oh, I have a depressive tendency. Oh, I have ego problems. Oh, I'm overly optimistic. That's brilliant. That's the start. How often are you able to recognize it? That's the second level. And on a completely different skill set, what do you do once you discover these forces? Stick around, and I'll give you practical exercises exactly how to do that. Thank you so much. Take care. Love you. Love yourself. Be careful of some of these forces, but be caring. The main thing is to be caring. If you come, this entire substrate here, this entire reality is very malleable, but it's constantly being affected by the outside. So I think often you have this dichotomy where people say, just do positive words, right? Just think positively, right? So for example, if you physically smile, you'll be more happy. Okay? This is scientifically backed. If you force yourself to smile, you'll be more happy. Okay, we'll take this. And what I'll do, dodge all these things, and I'll force myself to smile more. Ignoring the fact that you have people in the world that might across the line. People in this world that might actively be making you unhappy. Oh, not to worry. Cut them out of your life. What I'm trying to highlight here is you're working on such a granular level, right? You're working on a piece of logic, a piece of science, a piece of reason, a piece of wisdom. And then when something goes against that state that you're trying to control, right? Like a person, a family member, a boss. Okay, then, well, I'm just going to get that person out of my life. Okay, well, what if you need to pay some expenses? Right? That's meant to be a money symbol. And what if that makes you unhappy? Oh, well, in that case, I'm going to cut that off. I'm going to be a nomad. I'm going to live in a van. It started off as you trying to be happy, and now you're living in a van. Okay, I'm being silly. I'm just trying to add a little bit of humor to this. If you focus on these individual things and try and control individual details, you're often not going to get the result that you want. Instead, understand the big things that are going on inside you, and then try to integrate them, try to understand that. That's a bit of a longer process, but you're more likely to actually get longer term results. So this voice in me, this force in me, is still here. But if I associated this, right? If I made a false equivalency and said this, right? So we have a depiction of just like this is a mirror of this. We can make another mirror, and we say, okay, well, this voice is be ruthless. Okay. Imagine I'm unable to truly see this. Right? I lack the awareness. Instead, I have access to this. And I notice these narratives in my head. I notice, oh, be ruthless, be ruthless, be ruthless. And I reverse engineer that there is something creating these words. And I attribute characteristics. Okay. If he's saying be ruthless, then what does that say about this? Because I'm reverse engineering. Well, that must mean that this guy is anti-human. Doesn't like love. It must mean that he's evil, right? Must mean that he loves money. All these things are implied from a very small piece of information. So you're going through your life, and even if you have awareness, right, you have a moment of clarity, if you attribute a force to an individual moment and then use the power of your mind to reverse engineer, it doesn't matter if you've got 100 IQ, 150 IQ, the way you're approaching the problem is going to make it almost impossible to find a solution. If I label this a string, and I label this a string, and strings can charge the phone, and I use this string to charge the phone, it doesn't matter how innovative I get, I can't safely charge the phone. Why? Because I've mislabeled something. Labeling something is incredibly important. So maybe that'll be the topic of the next video. I've kept you long enough. Thank you so much. Take care.